Hello everyone, my name is Alexandre Machado and I've been working with Atozed team in IntraWeb development during the last 2 years. During this presentation, I'm going to show you some new features available in IntraWeb XIV, the latest version of IntraWeb. This is what we are going to see today. I'll show you how to find bugs in your IntraWeb application. I'll show the new type of deployment, ASP.NET deployment. Also a new feature available to ISAP applications using URL rewrite. New options of cookies and session tracking, and a migration path from IntraWeb XII to IntraWeb XIV. Okay, so let's start. First of all, I do know that you don't write bugs, neither do I. But these new classes may help you to find some hard to detect bugs and other issues in your IntraWeb application. There are two new classes responsible for exception rendering and logging. They work together to give you much more information about unhandled exceptions within an IntraWeb application than prior IntraWeb versions. Let's see a demo and how they work. Okay, I have a demo application here ready. Inside the server controller on new session event, I'm raising an e-access violation exception. It could be any type of exception. Let's build. And see how it works. Okay, the exception is raised when I create a new session. Continue. Okay, here is the standard error report generated for me by IntraWeb. This is the original error message. Also, you may find lots of useful information here, like browser user agent, active form list, current active form, content path, application path, etc. But the most important information is not present here. You may see that our stack trace is empty. Okay, so let's enable our stack trace. How do we do that? We have to add this unit, IWJCL stack trace. This unit is a modified version of JCL stack trace from Jedi Code library. We just add it to our project and build. Let's see how it works. Okay, the same exception as expected. Let's continue. Okay, here we can see that the stack trace is not empty anymore. We have much more information, and this information is very important to find what caused the exception. Here you can see in the first line of the stack trace, server controller line 45. Let's go there. Here is it. Line 45. This is where our exception happened. All good. Now you have a working stack trace in your exception report, but what if you have an IntraWeb application running in a production environment? There is another option where you can still have all the exception information saved to a log file. Let's see how it works. Let's enable the exception logger in our server controller. Just check enable to true, set enable to true. There are a few more options here, but the default options should work just fine. Let's build the project once more. Run it again. Okay, same exception as usual. Okay, but now in a folder named error log below the application, I have a new file with exactly the same information rendered in the browser. If I try to run the same application again, I'll have the same exception, and a new log file is created. So I'll have one log file for each unhandled exception inside my IntraWeb application. Okay, let's continue. Now I'll show you how to make your ISAP application, IntraWeb application, work with URL rewrite. URL rewrite is an IIS extension. It generates simple URLs for your web application. This new feature is available in IntraWeb 14.0.19 and later versions. Okay, let's close this project and open the other one. It's here. This is the same features demo, classic features demo that we have been using for years. Built it. Now running. Okay, you may see that it's working just fine. And please note the URL. Okay? Good. Let's close it. I'll recycle my application pool. Otherwise, I won't be able to build it again. Okay. Now I want to make it work with URL rewrite. It is already installed. As you can see here, this is a separate download and install. It's not installed with the standard IIS installation, so you have to download it and install it. Okay, let's get back to our features project. I will open the server controller and I will add some special code here to the onConfig event. Okay. Our application is being used. I have to recycle my application pool. Should be okay now. Let's see. Okay, done. Now I will run my application again. Crossing the fingers. Okay. Seems that it is working okay, but take a look at the URL. There is no features isapi.dll at the end of the URL like before. Okay, but we got it working. But how did we do that? In fact, it's quite simple. We have a web config file here with a special rewrite rule for our application. I'll not enter in detail how to rewrite rules for IIS. There is a Microsoft documentation. It's quite complex. You can write very complex rules, but this is quite simple. There is a limitation or restriction for rewrite rules in IIS. In this case, you can only rewrite rules for the same application pool of your default website. In this case, my default website is using the default application pool, so my application, isapi application, inside this URL rewrite application in IIS, it must use the same application pool. This is a small restriction. In most cases, if you own the web server, you can handle that, so it should work in most cases. Okay, let's continue. Starting with IntraWeb XIV, there is a new type of deployment. We call it ASP.NET deployment. It allows you to deploy your application as an ASP.NET application. It uses two small precompiled DLLs, .NET DLLs, and they are part of the standard IntraWeb installation. Let's go back to the Delphi IDE, close this project. And I will open the ASP X demo. This is the same. Okay, there is a problem here with paths. Nothing serious. Just have to change the path here. Okay, should work now. Okay, so I compiled my application. And let me open the browser and run the application. This is not the correct URL. Just have to remove this. And okay. The same features demo working. Just like before. Please note that in this case we don't have the same ISAPI DLL name in the URL. And it basically just works. When you create a new project to be deployed as an ASP.NET application, you should use the IntraWeb application wizard and choose IW library. This way, the IntraWeb application wizard will create a new library. This library is not an ISAPI library. It's a standard Windows DLL that can be called by our ASP.NET modules. Okay. Now we'll talk a little about cookies and session tracking in IntraWeb applications. There are new and extended cookie options. In recent IntraWeb 14 versions, you have more control of IntraWeb cookies. There is also a new option of session tracking. It uses a mixed mode of URL and hidden fields, and it does not use cookies. It should be used for IntraWeb applications running inside iframes. Okay, so let's see a demo. I have another application here ready. It's named No Cookies Demo. Let's see the options, cookie options. As you can see, in our server controller, I have use cookies set to false, and this way this application will not use any cookies for session tracking. Let's see how it works. Takes a little longer to build because I'm building with IntraWeb sources. In this case is a standalone application. I will run it in Firefox because I want to use Firebug to give me information about the cookies. This is a simple application, and as you can see, there is no cookies. My IntraWeb application did not save any cookies for session state. Let's go back to the IDE. If you want your application not to use cookies, you must set use cookies to false, and you need to have allow multiple sessions per user set to true, because IntraWeb needs the session ID information in the URL. There is also two other cookie options. The cookie name suffix, you can use anything here, like my cookie. I will enable cookies in this case, so you can see this using Firebug. Let's see the application running again. In this case, as you can see, this is IW. My app is the standard name of the cookie, and my cookie is my suffix. So in this case, it is using cookies for session tracking. Why this is important? Because it allows you to have multiple IntraWeb applications, the same application running in different ports using different cookie names. Okay, so now from IntraWeb 12 to IntraWeb 14. First thing of all, and I can't stress it enough, forget the files directory. There is a new directory called www.root, and you should save all your static files like images, style files, CSS files, JavaScript files. All these files should be saved below the new www.root folder. Also, there is no T URL responder in IntraWeb 14. You should replace it with the new T content handler classes. These are not components, so you won't find it in the component palette. It should be created in code. There are at least 3 or 4 different demos in our Codeplex repository, so you can learn there how to use the new T-Content Handler classes. Another thing, you should replace the old TIW file with the new TIW file uploader. This new component allows you to upload files using Ajax, and it does not require a full submit of your web page. If you need to set some server controller property at runtime, you should use the server controller on config event. And you should also use on get main form event of the server controller to dynamically set the main form of your application. This is usually done when you set the main form of the application depending on some condition or some runtime parameter. And another important thing when you move to IW14, always use paths inside your JavaScript and CSS files relative to your root folder. I mean, the path should start with a slash. This is very important. But why is this important? Because files with root relative paths served by IntraWeb don't require session locking or authentication. So this gives you much more performance. There are many other new things in IntraWeb 14. I'll just say a few. There is an enhanced default SSL security. There are new controls like the new TIW file uploader, much better HTML5 compatibility, and IntraWeb 14 and also IntraWeb 15 it is in beta stage now. They have the best performance among all IntraWeb versions. It is much faster than the prior versions. Okay, thanks for your time and for watching my presentation. If you have further questions, I'll be glad to help you, and you may drop me an email. My email is on the screen. Thank you. Bye-bye.
What is the repository address?
This new folder replaces the old files folder, and is now named www.root, just like IIS.
Okay.
This is a standard.
I know there were a couple questions about HTML5 support, and I think you posted IW14 is rendering HTML5 by default. Is that right?
Yeah. We are migrating old HTML4 for the new HTML5 from 1 year now, and most of the HTML code emitted by IntraWeb is now 100% compatible with HTML5. We have a lot of things to do yet, like Canvas support, etc. But we are working on it.
Okay. Yeah, that's excellent. That's all we ever hear. For the people who want to use HTML, everybody's just saying HTML5, HTML5 now. Yeah. Let me scroll down. There was a question about deploying Let's see. Go ahead.
Deployment information covered on IntraWeb documentation or elsewhere?
Deployment. Let me see. I didn't get this question. Can you repeat it?
Is this material covered in the IntraWeb documentation or elsewhere? I'm not sure where I got it from.
Most of these things I showed today are new. And ASP.NET deployment is covered with extensive tutorial, how to deploy, how to build the application. But most of the things are new. And we are still working to document everything.
Okay.
So where's the best place to get to the documentation you do have?
We have work in progress online, docs.atozed.com. You can find we are building a new website from scratch using our own tools. It's built with IntraWeb and it's available on www.atozed.com. Sorry.
Okay, www.atozed.
It's the best place to find our information. But we are working to update our manuals, our old IW9 manuals, or we are bringing it to IW14, and we expect to have nice things to show you real soon.
Okay, excellent. So I want to ask if it's pronounced Z or Z, or how you pronounce the...
I say A to Z.
I really don't know.
just say
This is Chad Howard, the owner of Atozed, told me someday that there is a pronunciation joke with Canadians and Americans, and I didn't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I say A to Z.com.
Yeah, it's I guess the joke in Canadians, they say Z for Z.
Yeah.
And Americans think that
maybe, yeah,
different than Z.
It's like Delphi at Delphi.
Yeah.
Delphi in the U.S., Delphi overseas. There you go. There's a question, is it possible to make a pop-up form in IntraWeb?
Sorry?
Is it possible to make a pop-up form in IntraWeb?
Pop-up. Yes, there is some techniques you can use to create a pop-up. Most of the things are there, but there is no component that you put on your form and there you have a pop-up. But there are third-party components like CG Tools and TMS. They have pop-up components for IntraWeb. But we are also working on it. You want to create some basic stuff so the users don't need to get third-party components to do basic stuff.
Yep. And here's a question about stability between IntraWeb 14 and 12.
In our tests, 14 is more stable than 12, but they are both much stable. But in our test, 14 has a better performance. We did the core from scratch, and old stuff, old code since IW9 or 8 were removed. We are using more runtime library provided by the Delphi itself. We don't have to create functions for string handling, etc., because Delphi provides more things than it provided in older versions. So our perception is that IW14 is more stable than 12.
Okay. Question about the TIWDB grid, if you're going to have AJAX support in there.
is difficult to answer because DB grid would require huge effort to bring it to the level of Ajax-enabled grids like jQuery, for instance. But we are updating it little by little. It's becoming more powerful, more complex to program, but we intend to make IntraWeb, everything in IntraWeb Ajax. Most of the things you usually did using a full post submit, now you can do with Ajax. A few things are missing, like IWDB grid.
Okay. There's a question here. Do you recommend building IntraWeb as standalone app or integrate with IIS?
Well, personally, I have at least 1 dozen IW applications running. I always deploy as ISAP. Today, we have the ASP.NET, like I showed in this presentation. It's a good alternative because for all effects, your application works just like an ASP.NET application. It's a single Win32 DLL that you deploy with your ASP.NET module, and it works like an ASP.NET application. But I prefer to use ISAP. In most times, I find that ISAP has a better performance.
Yeah, and we've said the same thing.
For DataSnap, yeah.
For DataSnap, for example, you always have the choice to create a standalone application, executable that sits and responds. There's I've used that for testing as well, where you can do it without having to deploy to IS. When you're doing development, you don't have to worry about DLLs and all that other stuff. So it's a nice way to test, and you can deploy the standalone app. It's just a choice.
Yes, we have lots of customers deploying as Windows services or another kind of standalone application, and they use the Windows services in web farms with great success, holding huge number of simultaneous users.
Yep.
Very stable.
Excellent. All right. So I think that's it for the questions we have.
Something just popped up. Lou Felis. Lou said, I find deploying ISAP on Apache 2 server on Windows performance is not great. Any chance of supporting Apache directly?
Yes, there is a chance. I might say that when we introduced the ASP.NET, the kind of form of deployment, we are open lots of doors, including the native Apache deployment. It's in our plans. I won't promise it for next month, but it's definitely in our plans.
Cool.
Excellent.
Yep.
Good.
I typed that in. Okay. And again, I think, where is it? The information is over on how to contact and look up things, and on the screen as well. If you want to contact Alexandre, the email address is up on the screen. So
yes.
Yep.
You are welcome to send me an email, and I will be glad to help you if I can.
Okay.